My eyes snapped open. The fluorescent lights burned. The beeping of the monitor drilled into my skull. But I was awake. Truly awake. I had been drifting in and out for what felt like hours. Maybe days. But now I was back. And the first thing I heard was their voices. Still arguing. Still circling my bed like vultures. They thought I was asleep. They thought I was dying. Just wait for him to die, Sarah snarled. I heard her clearly. Every syllable. It's not like he's going to wake up and change anything. He's been out for 2 days. Brian muttered something I couldn't catch. Mark laughed. Laughed. At my bedside. While his father lay in a hospital bed with tubes in his arms and wires on his chest, that the rage built inside me. I felt it in my fingers. My toes. My chest. The monitor started beeping faster. But I didn't care. I was going to speak. I was going to let them know that I heard every single word you said. My voice came out as a whisper. Weak. Cracked. Like gravel rolling downhill. But they heard it. The room went dead silent. No breathing. No shuffling. No arguing. Just the beep of the monitor and the hum of the machines. I turned my head. Slowly. Painfully. My neck felt like it was made of rusted iron. But I forced it. I needed to see their faces. Brian was closest. His jaw hung open. His face had gone pale. The color had drained so fast I could almost see it happening. His eyes were wide. Panicked. Sarah stood behind him. Her arms were crossed over her chest. Her mouth was a thin line. But I saw her hands trembling. She was gripping her own elbows so tight her knuckles had gone white. Mark was by the window. He had a cigarette in his hand. That was against hospital rules. He'd probably snuck in from the parking lot. His face was red. Flushed. Like he'd been caught stealing and was trying to come up with a lie. Dad, Brian said. His voice cracked. Dad, you're awake. That's great. We were so worried. We've been here every day. Every day, I repeated. My voice was stronger now. Still weak. Still rough. But there was steel underneath it. You've been here every day? Arguing. Planning. Waiting. Waiting for you to wake up, Dad, Sarah said. She uncrossed her arms. Tried to smile. It was the fakest smile I'd ever seen. We've been praying for you. The doctor said it was touch and go for a while. Touch and go, I said. Is that what they call it when the children stand over their father's bed and talk about how to split his money before he's even cold? Mark dropped his cigarette. It landed on the floor. He didn't pick it up. Dad, that's not. We weren't. I heard you, Mark. All of you. Every word. I paused to catch my breath. It hurt to talk. It hurt to breathe. But I was not stopping. The house goes to Brian. The cabin goes to Sarah. Mark gets the stocks. Sell the cars and split the cash. I watched their faces. Brian's jaw tightened. Sarah's eyes flicked to the side. Mark looked at the floor. That's not what we were saying, Dad, Brian said. You must have been dreaming. The medication. It can cause hallucinations. Confusion. The doctor warned us. Get the doctor, I said. Right now? And a lawyer. A real lawyer. Not one of those sharks Mark was talking about. Dad, you don't need a lawyer, Sarah said. Her voice had a whine in it now. Pleading. You just woke up. You need to rest. We can talk about all of this later. We'll talk about it now, I said. Or we won't talk about it at all. And I promise you, if you don't bring me a lawyer in the next hour, I will call one myself. And I will tell him everything I heard. Brian took a step back. Like I'd slapped him. Dad, we love you. We're your family. We would never. You would never what? Brian, you would never stand over my bed while I was unconscious and divide up my money like you'd already won the lottery. You would never talk about forging my signature on a new will. You would never call me a raisin, Mark winced. I didn't mean that, Dad. It was a joke. A stupid joke. A joke, I said. You called me shriveled like a raisin. You said I looked pathetic. Those were jokes. I was scared, Dad. I don't handle stress well. You know that. I laughed. It hurt. My chest burned. But I laughed anyway. You don't handle stress well. You've never handled anything well, Mark. You've had every opportunity, every advantage, and you've blown it all. Every single time. Mark's face went dark. The red flush deepened to purple. That's not fair, Dad. I've had bad luck. You don't know what it's like. I know exactly what it's like, I said. I built a business from nothing. I worked 60-hour weeks for 30 years. I gave you everything. And you threw it away. Gambling. Drinking. Bad investments. You name it. Dad, I'm not finished. I pushed myself up. Just an inch. My arms shook. The monitor beeped faster. I didn't care. Sarah, my practical daughter. The one who always had a plan. You wanted me to co-sign for your new car. Last year. Remember? The Mercedes. I said no. And you didn't speak to me for 3 months. Sarah's face was stone. That was a different situation, Dad. It was the exact same situation. You wanted something. I couldn't give it to you. So you punished me. With silence. With distance. You didn't call on my birthday. You didn't come for Christmas. You just waited. Waited until I gave in. You gave in, she said. Eventually. Because I loved you. Because I wanted to see my grandchildren. Because I was weak. I swallowed. My throat was sandpaper. I won't be weak anymore. Brian stepped forward. His hands were raised. Placating. Dad, let's just calm down. You're getting worked up. Your heart. My heart is none of your concern, I said. You made that clear. You're here for the money. Not for me. You're here to make sure you get your inheritance before I die. We're here to see you, Dad, Brian said. We love you. Then prove it, I said. Right now? All of you. Prove that you love me. They were silent. 3 grown adults. My children. And they couldn't say a single word. Brian, I said. Look me in the eye. Tell me you came to the hospital because you were worried about me. Not because you wanted to talk about the will. Brian opened his mouth. Closed it. Opened it again. I came because I was worried, Dad. That's the truth. Then where were you for the first 2 days? I asked. The nurse told me. She said I had no visitors for the first 48 hours. None. Not a single one of you. Brian looked at the floor. We were busy. Work. The kids. Busy, I said. Your father has a heart attack, and you're busy. That's your answer. Sarah stepped forward. Dad, we didn't know how serious it was. The hospital didn't call us right away. They had to stabilize you first. They called you, I said. I checked the chart. They called you within an hour of my arrival. And you didn't come. None of you. Not until you realized I might die. Not until you realized there was money at stake. Mark kicked the cigarette, but against the wall. This is ridiculous. We're here now. That's what matters. We came as soon as we could. As soon as you could, I repeated. Or as soon as you realized I might not wake up. Mark didn't answer. His jaw was tight. His fists were clenched. I want to be alone, I said. All of you. Get out. Dad, Brian started. I said get out. Now. And don't come back until you're ready to be my children. Not my heirs. My children. They stood there for a moment. Frozen. Like they didn't know what to do. Then Sarah turned. She walked out without a word. Brian followed. He paused at the door. Look back at me. We'll be in the waiting room, Dad. If you need us. I won't. I said that Mark was the last to leave. He didn't look at me. He just walked out. Slammed the door behind him. The room was silent. Just the machines. Just the beeping. I closed my eyes. My chest was burning. My hands were shaking. But underneath all of it, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Clarity. I lay there for a long time. Minutes. Hours. I wasn't sure. The light shifted. The shadows grew longer. At some point, the nurse came in. She checked my vitals. She looked at me with something like pity in her eyes. Are you okay? She asked. Her name was Maria. I'd seen her before. She was always kind. Always gentle. I heard shouting. Were your kids here? They were, I said. They left. Are you sure you're okay? Your heart rate is elevated. I can give you something to calm you down. I don't want to calm down, I said. I want to be angry. I need to be angry. She nodded. She didn't ask questions. She just adjusted my blankets. If you need anything at all, just press the button. I'll be right here. She left. The room was quiet again. I stared at the ceiling. I thought about my wife. Elizabeth. She'd been dead for 3 years. Cancer. It took her fast. 6 months from diagnosis to the end. And she was the one who held our family together. She was the one who kept the peace. She was the one who made sure the holidays happened. The birthdays. The anniversaries. Without her, everything fell apart. I remembered the last conversation we had. She was in the hospital. The same hospital. Same wing. Same fluorescent lights. She was so thin. So pale. The cancer had eaten away everything. But her eyes were still sharp. Don't let them fight, she said. When I'm gone. Promise me. Don't let them tear each other apart. I promised. I made that promise. And I broke it. I let them fight. I let them drift apart. I let them turn into strangers who only called when they needed money. She would be so disappointed. She would be so ashamed. I looked at the clock. 5:47 p.m. The day was fading. The hospital was getting quiet. Dinner would come soon. Then the night shift. Another round of vitals. Another round of drugs. I pressed the call button. Maria came back. Need something, she asked. Phone, I said. I need a phone. And a phone book. The yellow pages. Or the internet. I need a lawyer. Her eyebrows went up. A lawyer? Are you sure it's late? Most offices are closed. I'm sure. I need someone who specializes in wills, trusts, estate planning. I need someone who can come here. Tonight. Or tomorrow morning at the latest. She studied me for a moment. Her eyes were kind. But there was something else there. Recognition. Like she'd seen this before. Like she knew exactly what I was doing. I know someone, she said. He's a client. An attorney. He comes in for dialysis 3 times a week. He's here right now, actually. Down in the dialysis unit. Do you want me to see if he can come up? Please, I said. Tell him it's urgent. Tell him I need to change my will. Everything. I need to start over. She nodded. I'll go find him. Just rest. Don't do anything to raise your blood pressure. I mean it. I'll be fine, I said. Just get him. She left. I lay there, waiting. My mind was racing. I was thinking about the house, the cabin, the stocks, the retirement accounts, the cars, everything I'd built, everything I'd worked for. And I was thinking about who deserved it. My children, the ones who stood over my bed and argued about who got what, the ones who called me a raisin, the ones who waited for me to die. No, not them. I thought about the church, the one I'd been going to. St. Mary's. Small congregation. Good people. They helped me after Elizabeth died. They brought me meals. They sat with me in the pews. They listened when I talked about her. They didn't ask for anything. They just showed up. I thought about the food pantry, the one I volunteered at. The people who came through the doors, hungry, desperate, grateful. They didn't have anything, but they said thank you. They said it with their eyes. They said it with their voices. They appreciated everything. I thought about Maria, the nurse. She barely knew me, but she was kind. She was gentle. She didn't want anything from me. She just did her job, and she did it with her whole heart. Those people deserve my money, not my children, not the ones who treated me like a wallet. The door opened. Maria came back. Behind her was an older man, gray hair, glasses. He was wearing a hospital gown, blue stripes, but he had a briefcase, a leather briefcase, and he walked with purpose. Mr. Henderson, he said. I'm Arthur Steinberg. Maria tells me you need a lawyer. I do, I said. I need to change my will, and I need to do it fast. He pulled up a chair, sat down. He opened his briefcase, pulled out a pad of paper, a pen. Tell me what you want to do. I told him everything. The house, the cabin, the stocks, the retirement accounts, the cars, everything. And I told him exactly where I wanted it to go. He wrote it all down. Are you sure about this? He asked. Your children. They're not getting anything, nothing, I said. Not a single penny. I'm giving it all to St. Mary's Church, and the food pantry, and a fund for hospital staff. Nurses like Maria. People who actually care. He looked up from his pad. Mr. Henderson, this is a significant change. Your children will contest it. They'll fight it in court. They'll say you weren't of sound mind. They'll say you were under duress, influenced by medication, confused. Let them try, I said. I heard every word they said. Every single word. I'm of sound mind. I'm not confused. And I have a witness. Maria was there. She heard them arguing. She knows what happened. Maria nodded. I heard them, she said. I'll testify. If it comes to that. I'll write this up tonight, Arthur said. I'll have the documents ready for you to sign in the morning. Are you going to be awake? Set an alarm, I said. I'll be here. I'll be waiting. He packed up his briefcase. Stood up. Mr. Henderson, I've been a lawyer for 40 years. I've seen a lot of families break apart over money. But this is something else. You're doing the right thing. I want you to know that. I know, I said. Thank you. He left. Maria stayed for a moment. She looked at me. Her eyes were wet. Thank you, she said. For what you're doing. For remembering the nurses. For remembering us. You deserve it, I said. More than they do. She squeezed my hand. Then she left. The room was quiet again. I closed my eyes. The monitor beeped. Steady. Calm. For the first time in days, I felt at peace. But it wasn't over. Not yet. There was still tomorrow. There was still the signing. And there was still my children. They would be back. I knew it. They would come back with lawyers. With arguments. With guilt trips. They would try to change my mind. They would try to convince me that I was wrong. But I wasn't wrong. I knew that. Deep in my bones. I knew it. That I had heard every word they said. And I would never forget that the sun set outside the window. The room went dark. The machines hummed. I lay there, waiting. thinking. Planning. Tomorrow was going to be a long day. The next morning came slow. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard their voices. Sarah snarling. Mark laughing. Brian dividing up my life like he was cutting a pie. The monitor beeped all night. The machines hummed. The fluorescent lights never turned off. I watched the clock tick from midnight to 1 to 2. At 5 a.m., the nurses came in for blood work. At 6, they brought breakfast. A tray of eggs and toast and apple juice. I forced myself to eat. I needed my strength. At 7, Arthur Steinberg walked through the door. He was dressed in a suit now. No hospital gown. He carried a leather briefcase and a stack of papers. His hair was combed. His glasses were polished. He looked like a man on a mission. Mr. Henderson, he said. I have the documents ready. I need you to read them carefully. Every page. Every line. This is your last will and testament. Once you sign, it's official. Your children can contest it, but it will be a long, expensive battle. They'll have to prove you were incompetent. And we have witnesses. We have Maria. We have the nurse's notes. We have your medical records showing you were lucid. I've been doing this for 40 years, Mr. Henderson. I have never lost a case like this. Let them try, I said. I want them to try. I want them to know exactly what they did. I want them to look at the paper and remember every word they said. Arthur placed the document on the bedside table. He handed me a pen. Take your time. Read it. Ask questions. This is your legacy. You need to be sure. I read every word. The language was formal, legal, dense, but the meaning was clear. My house, my cabin, my stocks, my retirement accounts, my cars, everything I owned. All of it went to St. Mary's Church, the food pantry, and a newly created trust for hospital staff. Not a single cent for Brian, Sarah, or Mark. Not a penny. Not a dime. Not even a mention of their names. I signed my name at the bottom. Arthur witnessed it. He signed too. Then he called for Maria. She came in. She signed as the second witness. Her hand was steady. Her face was calm. Thank you, I said. Both of you. Thank you. Maria squeezed my hand. You did the right thing. I know it. I see families tear each other apart in this hospital every day. It's always about money. Always about the house. Always about the car. But you stopped it. You chose kindness. You chose people who actually care. Arthur packed up his papers. I'll file this with the court today. I'll also make copies. One for you. One for my office. One for the church. And one for your children's lawyers when they come. Don't give it to them, I said. Let them come to me. Let them ask. Let them beg. I want to see their faces when they find out. Arthur nodded. I understand. But Mr. Henderson, be careful. They're angry now. They're going to be furious when they learn what you've done. They'll say terrible things. They'll try to hurt you. Emotionally. Maybe even physically. Your heart can't take that kind of stress. My heart has taken everything they've thrown at it for 30 years, I said. It can take a little more. Arthur left. Maria left. The room was empty again. I lay there, staring at the ceiling. The monitor beeped. The machines hummed. And I waited till they came at 9. I heard them in the hallway before I saw them. Sarah's voice, sharp and cold. Brian's voice, low and demanding. Mark's voice, whining and defensive. They were talking to a nurse. Trying to get in. Trying to see me. Sir, we're his children. We need to see him. Why are you blocking us? The nurse's voice was firm. Your father has requested no visitors. I'm sorry. He left specific instructions. No one gets in without his permission. That's ridiculous. We're his family. We have a right to see him. You don't have a right, ma'am. You have a privilege. And he has revoked that privilege. I couldn't see their faces, but I could imagine them. Sarah's cheeks flushed with anger. Brian's jaw tight. Mark's fists clenched. They were not used to being told no. They were not used to being stopped. Fine, Brian said. Then tell him we're here. Tell him we need to talk. It's urgent. I'll let him know, the nurse said. Wait here. She knocked on my door. She opened it. Mr. Henderson, your children are here. They want to see you. Do you want me to let them in? I took a deep breath. Let them in. One at a time. Sarah first. And closed the door behind her. The nurse nodded. She stepped into the hallway. I heard her say, he'll see you. One at a time. Sarah, you're first. Sarah's heels clicked on the linoleum. She walked into the room. Her face was a mask. Tight. Controlled. Forced calm. She was wearing a black dress. High heels. A gold necklace. She looked like she was going to a funeral. Maybe she was. Dad, she said. You look better. I feel better, I said. Clearer. More focused. Did you sleep well? Her eyes narrowed. She didn't like the question. I didn't sleep much. I was worried about you. Worried about me. Or worried about the money. Don't do this, Dad. Don't start this again. We came here to talk. We want to make things right. Make things right, I repeated. How exactly do you plan to do that? She sat down in the chair next to my bed. She leaned forward. Her voice was low, intense. We made mistakes. We were scared. We didn't handle things well. But we're your children. We love you. And we want to be part of your life. We want to help you. We want to take care of you. You want to take care of me, I said. Or you want to make sure I don't change my will? Her face tightened. Dad, we've been through this. The will. The money. It's not about that. It's about family. It's about being together. We're all you have left. Mom is gone. You don't have anyone else. I have plenty of people, I said. The people at St. Mary's. The people at the food pantry. Maria. The nurses who take care of me. They've shown me more love in the past 3 days than you've shown me in 3 years. Sarah's jaw dropped. Her eyes went wide. That's not fair, Dad. We have lives. We have jobs. We have families of our own. We can't drop everything to come running every time you have a problem. Every time I have a problem, I said. I had a heart attack, Sarah. A heart attack. I almost died. And you stood over my bed and argued about my money. You didn't ask about my health. You didn't ask about my pain. You asked about the house and the cabin and the stocks. That's all you cared about. That's not true. Don't lie to me. My voice was sharp. Hard. I heard you. I heard every word. You can't unsay it. You can't take it back. I know exactly what you think of me. I know exactly what you want. And I know exactly what you'll do when I'm gone. You'll take everything and you'll forget about me. You'll forget about everything I ever did for you. You'll forget about every sleepless night, every sacrifice, every dollar I gave you when you needed it. Sarah stood up. Her hands were shaking. I can't do this. I can't sit here and listen to you accuse me of things that aren't true. I came here to make amends. I came here to help you. And you're throwing it in my face. Am I said. Or am I finally telling you the truth? She stared at me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then she turned. She walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the handle. I'm not giving up on you, Dad. I'm going to fight for you. For us. Even if you don't want me to. Save your energy, I said. Send Brian in. She left. The door clicked shut. I waited. Brian came in next. He was wearing a suit. Tie loosened. He looked tired. Stress lines etched into his forehead. He sat in the same chair Sarah had used. He didn't lean forward. He didn't try to be gentle. He just sat there, staring. Dad, I'm going to be direct with you. That's who I am. I don't play games. Good, I said. Neither do I. Whatever you think you heard, he started. I heard exactly what I heard. I said. Don't waste my time with excuses. Brian rubbed his forehead. Dad, we made a mistake. We were stressed. You were in the hospital. We didn't know if you were going to make it. We talked about things we shouldn't have. We said things we didn't mean. But that doesn't mean we don't love you. That doesn't mean we're not your family. You love me, I said. Is that what you're telling me? Yes. Then tell me what you love about me. What do you love? Name one thing. Brian opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. I love that you worked so hard. I love that you provided for us. I love that you gave us everything we needed. You love that I provided for you, I said. You love that I gave you things. That's not love, Brian. That's gratitude. And even that is a stretch. You've never thanked me for anything. Not once. Not in 30 years. That's not true. Name one time. One time you called just to say thank you. One time you sent a card. One time you showed up at my door with flowers or a bottle of whiskey or anything that wasn't a request for money. Brian's face went red. Dad, that's not fair. I'm not good at that stuff. You know that. I show love in different ways. What ways? I said. What ways? Brian, give me an example. He was silent. He couldn't say a word. I thought so, I said. You can't name one. Because there's nothing to name. You've taken and taken and taken. And I gave and gave and gave. And now that I have nothing left to give, you're angry. You're frustrated. Because the well has finally run dry. That's not true, he said again. But his voice was weaker. Less certain. Send Mark in, I said. I want to talk to him. Brian stood up. He looked at me. His eyes were wet. But I didn't feel sorry for him. I couldn't. Not after everything I'd heard. You're making a mistake, Dad, he said. You're pushing away the only people who care about you. No, I said. I'm pushing away the only people who want my money. He walked out. Mark came in. He was wearing a hoodie, jeans, sneakers. He sat on the edge of the bed, like we were old friends, like we were going to share a beer. It was all an act. Dad, he said, can we forget about everything that happened, please? I'm not good at this. I'm not good at serious stuff. I just want things to go back to the way they were. Can we do that? Go back to the way things were, I said. You mean when I paid off your credit cards, when I bailed you out of debt, when I gave you money for rent and groceries, and whatever else you wasted it on? Mark winced. Dad, that's not. I'm trying here. I'm trying to be better. Are you really? Or are you just saying that because you want to make sure you get a slice of the inheritance? Mark looked at his hands. His knuckles were white. His jaw was tight. I don't care about the inheritance. I just want you to be okay. I want us to be a family. Like we used to be. Like we used to be, I repeated. When was that? Mark, when did we ever actually get along? When did we ever sit down and have a real conversation? When did you ever ask me about my life, my dreams, my fears? You never did. Not once. It was always about you. Always about what you needed. Always about what I could give you. Mark stood up. He was breathing hard. I tried, Dad. I tried so hard. But nothing was ever good enough for you. Nothing. You always wanted more. You always wanted me to be something I'm not. I wanted you to be a decent human being, I said. I wanted you to work hard. I wanted you to be honest. I wanted you to take responsibility for your own life. But you never did. You blamed everyone else. You blamed me. You blamed your mother. You blamed bad luck. You never once looked in the mirror and said, maybe it's my fault. Mark walked to the door. He opened it. He looked back at me. I thought you were different, Dad. I thought you were better than this. So did I said. So did I. He left. The door closed. The room was quiet again. I lay there, staring at the ceiling. My chest hurt. My heart was racing. The monitor beeped faster. But I forced myself to breathe. Slow. Deep. Calmed out. I thought about Elizabeth. I thought about the promises I made to her. I thought about the family we built. And I thought about how it had all fallen apart. But it wasn't over. Not yet. There was still more to come. Arthur called me in the afternoon. He said the will had been officially filed. It was now a matter of public record. If my children wanted to fight it, they would have to do it through the courts. They would have to prove I was incompetent. They would have to prove I was coerced. They would have to prove I didn't know what I was doing. And I would prove them wrong. The rest of the day was quiet. Maria came in to check on me. She adjusted my four. She checked my blood pressure. She asked if I needed anything. Peace, I said. I need peace. Then rest, she said. Sleep. Don't let them get to you. You did what was right. You made a choice. A brave choice. Thank you, I said. For everything. For standing by me. For being a witness. She smiled. That's what we do, Mr. Henderson. That's what nurses do. We take care of people. We don't ask for anything in return. That's why you chose us. That's why you chose the church. Because we don't want anything. We just want to help. I closed my eyes. I tried to sleep. But the voices kept coming back. Sarah's snarl. Mark's laugh. Brian's cold calculations. They were like a loop in my head, playing over and over and over. At 8 p.m., the nurse came to change my four. She was a different woman. Older. Gray hair. Kind eyes. She introduced herself as Janet. Your kids are in the waiting room, she said. They've been there all day. They're not leaving. They said they're going to wait until you see them again. They can wait, I said. They can wait forever. I've waited for them for 30 years. They can wait a few days. Janet nodded. I'll tell them. But Mr. Henderson, they're getting loud. They're making a scene. The security guards have been keeping an eye on them. Do you want me to call the police? No, I said. Let them be. Let them make fools of themselves. Let everyone see who they really are. She finished with the four. She left. I lay there, staring at the clock. 8:15 p.m. The minutes crawled. I was tired. So tired. My body ached. My chest burned. But I couldn't sleep. I thought about the house. The 3-bedroom colonial on Maple Street. The yard I'd mowed every weekend for 30 years. The garden Elizabeth had planted. The roses. The tulips. The hydrangeas. The tree house I'd built for the kids when they were small. They had loved it. They had played there for hours. They had been happy. I thought about the cabin. The small wooden place on Lake Michigan. The dock where we'd spent summers. The boat we'd taken out on the water. The bonfires we'd had on the beach. Elizabeth had loved that place. The kids had loved it too. It was supposed to be a refuge. A place where the family could come together. A place where we could be a family again. But that was never going to happen. Not now. Not after everything that I thought about the stocks, the retirement accounts, the money I'd saved my entire life. It wasn't a fortune. It wasn't enough to make anyone rich. But it was enough to make a difference. Enough to help people who really needed it. People who didn't have the advantages my children had. People who were struggling. People who were alone. That's where the money was going. To the people who needed it most. I must have fallen asleep. The next thing I knew, it was morning. The sun was streaming through the blinds. The machines were humming. The monitor was beeping. I felt rested. Stronger. Clearer. Arthur came again. He brought a copy of the will. A certified copy. He gave it to me. You should have a copy of your own. Keep it safe. You might need to show it to them. I took the document. I held it in my hands. It felt heavy. Important. Official. When do I get out of here? I asked. Arthur looked at my chart. The doctor says you'll be discharged in 2 days. But you'll need to take it easy. No stress. No excitement. Your heart needs time to heal. No stress, I repeated. That's going to be hard. Arthur smiled. I know. But try. For your own sake. He left. I lay there, staring at the ceiling. 2 days. I could wait 2 days. That the morning passed quietly. The kids stayed in the waiting room. They didn't try to come in. They didn't cause any trouble. They just waited. At noon, Maria came in with a tray. Lunch. Soup and crackers and a glass of water. She set it on the table and looked at me with concern. Your kids are still here. They've been here all night. All of them. They're not sleeping. They're not eating. They're just waiting. Let them wait, I said. Mr. Henderson, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I'm just saying, they look desperate. They look scared. I don't think they're faking it. I think they really don't know what to do. Good, I said. That's exactly what I want. I want them to feel what I felt when I heard them arguing over my money. I want them to feel the helplessness I felt. The fear. The pain. Maria nodded. She didn't argue. She just adjusted my pillows and left. I ate my soup. I drank my water. I watched the clock. 1 p.m., 2 p.m., 3 p.m. The hours crawled. At 4 p.m., there was a knock on my door. Not soft. Not timid. A firm knock. It was Sarah. She didn't wait for me to answer. She walked in. She had a piece of paper in her hand. She threw it on my bed. What is this? She demanded. I looked at the paper. It was a copy of the will. Arthur must have given it to them. Or someone had leaked it. I didn't know. But there it was. My signature. My legacy. All of it. In black and white. You know what it is, I said. You've been talking about it for days. Now it's official. Sarah's face was red. Her hands were shaking. You can't do this. You can't give everything away. We're your children. We're your flesh and blood. You can't just disinherit us like we're strangers. I'm not disinheriting you, I said. I'm just not giving you anything. There's a difference. Don't get cute with me, Dad. Sarah's voice was shaking. This is insane. This is a joke. The church, the food pantry, hospital nurses. You're giving our inheritance to strangers. People you barely know. People who don't care about you. They care about me more than you do, I said. They've shown it. Every single day. Maria came to see me when I was alone. When none of you showed up. She sat with me. She talked to me. She held my hand when I was scared. What did you do? You stood over my bed and argued about who gets the house. You called me a raisin. You said I looked pathetic. Sarah's face went pale. I didn't call you a raisin. That was Mark. I never said that. No, I said. But you laughed. You let it happen. You didn't defend me. You didn't tell him to stop. You just stood there and let them say whatever they wanted. Like I wasn't there. Like I didn't matter. Dad, I was scared. We were all scared. We weren't thinking straight. You were thinking straight enough to talk about the house. The cabin. The stocks. You were thinking straight enough to divide up my money like you'd already won the lottery. That's not fear, Sarah. That's greed. Cold, hard, ugly greed. Sarah sat down. She put her face in her hands. She started to cry. Real tears. Not fake. Not forced. Real. Ugly. Uncontrollable. She sobbed into her palms. Please, Dad. Please don't do this. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know we made mistakes. But we love you. We really do. Please give us a chance. Please let us make it right. I watched her cry. I felt something twist in my chest. Pain. Sympathy. Guilt. All mixed together. I wanted to comfort her. I wanted to hold her. I wanted to tell her it was okay. That I forgave her. That we could start over. But I couldn't because I remembered. I remembered the voices. The arguing. The laughter. The cruelty. I remembered how they stood over me while I was helpless. How they treated me like I was already dead. How they talked about me like I was nothing. And I couldn't let that go. Sarah, I said. My voice was quiet. Calm. I know you're sorry. I know you feel bad. But you're not sorry because you hurt me. You're sorry because you got caught. You're sorry because there's a consequence. If I hadn't woken up, if I hadn't heard you, you would have gone through with it. You would have taken everything and moved on with your lives. You wouldn't have felt a single moment of regret. Sarah looked up at me. Her face was wet. Her eyes were red. That's not true. That's not true at all. We would have mourned you. We would have been devastated. Would you, or would you have been too busy fighting over the house to notice? She opened her mouth to speak. Then she closed it. She couldn't say anything. There was nothing to say. I need you to leave, I said. I need you to leave and not come back. Not until I'm ready. And I don't know if I'll ever be ready. Dad, leave, Sarah. Please. I can't do this right now. She stood up. She looked at me. She didn't say anything. She just picked up her purse and walked out. The door closed behind her. I heard her footsteps fade down the hallway. I closed my eyes. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. It was the first time I'd cried in 3 years. Since the day Elizabeth died. I cried because I was angry. I cried because I was sad. I cried because I had just lost my children. All 3 of them. Not to death. To greed. To selfishness. To everything they had become. And I cried because I knew, deep down, that it wasn't going to get better. They weren't going to change. They weren't going to wake up one day and realize what they'd done. They were just going to keep fighting. Kept blaming. Kept hating. And I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I pushed the call button. Maria came in. She saw my face. She saw the tears. She didn't say anything. She just sat down next to my bed. She took my hand. She held it. And she waited. I looked at her. Her face was kind. Her eyes were soft. She didn't ask for anything. She just stayed. She just sat with me. Like a true friend. Thank you, I said. Thank you. Maria squeezed my hand. That's what we do, she said. We show up. I closed my eyes. I focused on her hand. Warm, steady, comforting. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The next 2 days passed in a blur. Nurses came and went. Doctors checked my vitals. They said I was healing. They said my heart was getting stronger. They said I could go home soon. But I didn't feel strong. I felt hollow, empty. Like someone had scooped out everything inside me and left nothing but a shell. My children were gone. They had left the waiting room. I didn't know where they went. I didn't ask. I didn't care. They had shown me who they were. And I believed them. Maria came to see me every day. She brought me coffee. She sat with me. She listened. She didn't judge. She didn't try to fix anything. She just stayed. That was enough. Arthur called on the 3rd day. He said the will was filed. It was official. My children had been notified. They had hired lawyers. They were preparing to contest it. Let them, I said. I'm ready. Mr. Henderson, Arthur said. I need you to be prepared. This is going to get ugly. They're going to drag your name through the mud. They're going to make you look like a crazy old man. They're going to say you were confused, that you were coerced, that you didn't know what you were doing. It's going to be brutal. I know, I said. But I don't care. I know what I heard. I know what I saw. And I know I'm doing the right thing. Arthur paused. There's something else. Your daughter, Sarah. She's been calling my office. Every hour. She's demanding to talk to you. She says she's sorry. She says she wants to make amends. She says she'll do anything. Anything except that she's not getting my money. I said, she says she's willing to walk away. She says she doesn't care about the inheritance anymore. She just wants her father back. I felt a twinge in my chest. It wasn't physical. It was something deeper. Something I couldn't name. But I didn't let it show. Tell her I'm not ready, I said. Tell her I need time. Arthur sighed. I'll tell her. But Mr. Henderson, I want you to think about something. Your children made terrible mistakes. They said horrible things. They showed you their worst side. But they're still your children. They're still the people you raised. They're still a part of you. I know, I said. That's what makes it so painful. I hung up the phone. I stared at the wall. I thought about Sarah. About Brian. About Mark. I thought about the little kids they used to be. The ones who ran to me when they fell. The ones who held my hand when they were scared. The ones who told me they loved me before they went to sleep. Those kids were gone. They had been replaced by strangers. Greedy, selfish strangers who cared more about money than their own father. But Arthur was right. They were still my children. They were still the ones I had raised. They were still the ones I had loved with everything I had. And I couldn't just forget that. Maria came in with my afternoon medication. She saw the look on my face. What's wrong? I don't know, I said. I don't know anything anymore. Maria sat down. She set the pills on the table. Talk to me. What's going on? I told her about Arthur's call, about Sarah's messages, about the confusion I felt, about the war inside me between anger and love. I want to hate them, I said. I want to write them off forever. They deserve it. They treated me like I was nothing. They stood over my bed and waited for me to die. They called me a raisin. They talked about forging my signature. They planned to steal my money while I was still breathing. But Maria said, I hear a but coming. But they're still my children, I said. I raised them. I love them. I gave them everything I had. And I can't just turn that off. I can't just stop caring, no matter how much I want to. Maria was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I'm going to tell you something. Something I don't tell many people. I looked at her. Waiting. My father, she said. He was a terrible man. He drank. He hit my mother. He hit me. He was cruel. He was selfish. He never gave me anything. Not love. Not support. Not even a kind word. He died alone. In a nursing home. And nobody cried. Not me. Not my mother. Not my brothers and sisters. We all just moved on. I didn't know what to say. I'd never heard her talk about her past before. But here's the thing, she said. Even after everything he did, even after all the pain, I still went to his funeral. I still stood over his grave. I still said a prayer. Not for him. He didn't deserve it. I said it for me. Because I needed to forgive him. Not because he was a good man. Because I needed to be a good person. And good people forgive. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. I looked at her. Her eyes were wet. But her face was calm. Resolute. You think I should forgive them? I asked. I think you should think about what kind of person you want to be, she said. Not just what kind of father you want to be, but what kind of human being. Do you want to be angry forever? Do you want to carry this bitterness until the day you die? Or do you want to let it go? Not for them. For you. I didn't answer. I couldn't. The question was too big. It opened up something inside me. Something I had been trying to bury as she left me with my thoughts. I lay there, staring at the ceiling. The machines hummed. The monitor beeped. The clock ticked. And I thought about my father. He was a good man. A simple man. A mechanic. He worked with his hands. He came home covered in grease every night. He didn't have much money. But he had a big heart. He taught me to be honest. To work hard. To treat people with respect. He taught me that family was everything. And I had failed him. I had failed my own children. I had given them money instead of love. I had given them things instead of time. I had taught them that success was measured in dollars. That happiness was found in possessions. That people were valued by what they could give you. I had made them into this. Not on purpose. Not intentionally. But I had done it. Every time I gave them money instead of advice. Every time I bought them gifts instead of spending time with them. Every time I said yes, because I couldn't say no. I had shown them that my love had a price tag. And now they were paying me back in the same currency. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. Not anger. Not sadness. Regret. Deep, crushing regret. The next morning, I called Arthur. I want to see them, I said. All three of them. Together. In my room. Tonight. Are you sure? Arthur asked. That could be dangerous. They're angry. They're frustrated. They might say things that, I need to do this, I said. I need to look them in the eye and tell them the truth. All of it. And I need to see if there's anything left. Anything worth saving. Arthur was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I'll arrange it. I'll be there too. As a witness. And Maria. I want her there as well. Thank you, I said. Thank you for everything. I spent the rest of the day preparing. I thought about what I was going to say. I thought about the right words. The right tone. I wanted to be firm, but not cruel. Honest, but not harsh. I wanted to show them the truth without destroying them. But I also wanted them to know. I wanted them to know exactly what they had done. I wanted them to feel the weight of their words. I wanted them to understand the damage they had caused. At 6 p.m., Arthur arrived. He was wearing a suit. He had a notepad. He sat in the corner of the room. At 6:15, Maria came in. She stood by the door. Her face was calm, resolute. She was there to witness, to protect, to remind me that I wasn't alone. At 6:30, the door opened. Brian walked in first. Then Sarah. Then Mark. They filed in like prisoners. Their faces were pale. Their eyes were red. They looked exhausted, worn out, defeated. They stood in a row at the foot of my bed. None of them said anything. They just stood there, waiting. Sit down, I said. All of you. Sit. They sat. 3 chairs. The same chairs they had sat in before. But this time, there was no arrogance. No entitlement. Just exhaustion. I asked you here because I need to say something. I began. I need to tell you the truth. All of it. And I need you to listen. Not to argue. Not to defend yourselves. Just to listen. Sarah opened her mouth to speak. I held up my hand. No. Not yet. Just listen. She closed her mouth. She sat back. She listened. I heard what you said in this room. All of it. The arguing. The planning. The names you called me. The jokes you made. I heard Mark call me a raisin. I heard Brian talk about dividing up my money like it was already his. I heard Sarah say just wait for him to die. Mark winced. Brian looked at the floor. Sarah closed her eyes. I heard every single word. I repeated. And it broke something in me. Not my heart. Something deeper. Something I didn't even know was there. It broke my trust in you. It broke my belief that you loved me. It broke my faith that I had raised good people. Sarah started to cry. Mark stared at his hands. Brian rubbed his face. But here's the thing. I continued. I'm not telling you this to make you feel bad. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand what you did. Not so you can apologize. Not so you can make it right. Because you can't. You can't take back the things you said. You can't undo the pain you caused. Sarah opened her mouth. Dad, I know, I said. I'm not finished. There's more. I took a breath. A deep breath. I've been thinking about this. About you. About us. About how we got here. And the truth is, I'm just as responsible as you are. I raised you. I taught you what mattered. And I taught you wrong. Brian looked up. Dad, that's not. I taught you that money was important, I said. I taught you that success was measured in dollars. I taught you that you were entitled to everything I had. Because I gave it to you. Every time you asked. Every time you needed something. I gave and I gave and I gave. And I never asked for anything in return. That's not true, Mark said. You asked for things. You asked for respect. You asked for love. I asked for respect, I said. But I didn't demand it. I asked for love. But I didn't earn it. I just gave you things. And I thought that was enough. I thought if I gave you enough stuff, you would love me. But that's not how it works. You can't buy love. You can't buy loyalty. You can't buy respect. I should have known that. I should have been a better father. Sarah was sobbing now. Brian's face was twisted. Mark looked like he was going to be sick. I'm not saying this to make you feel guilty, I said. I'm saying it because I need you to understand. We all made mistakes. We all failed each other. But that doesn't mean we can't change. That doesn't mean we can't start over. Brian looked up. His eyes were wet. Start over how? By being honest, I said. By telling the truth. By admitting that we were wrong. All of us. Not just you. Me too. Mark shook his head. I don't understand. You're the one who changed the will. You're the one who cut us out. How is that starting over? Because I'm not going to let the will be the final word, I said. I'm not going to let money be the end of this family. I'm not going to let greed destroy everything we built. That's not who I am. And that's not who you are. I know it. Deep down, I know it. Sarah looked up. Her face was wet. Dad, we don't deserve a second chance. We said horrible things. We were greedy. We were selfish. We were, yes, I said. You were. And I was too. I was selfish in my own way. I was greedy in my own way. I wanted you to love me. So I bought your love. And that was wrong. That was just as wrong as everything you did. No one spoke. The room was silent. Arthur watched from the corner. Maria stood by the door. The machines hummed. The monitor beeped. I called you here because I want to give you a choice, I said. A choice about the future. About our family. About whether we're going to heal or whether we're going to tear each other apart. What kind of choice? Brian asked. The will stays, I said. The money goes to the church. To the food pantry. To the hospital staff. That's not changing. I made a promise. I'm going to keep it. Sarah's face crumpled. Mark looked away. Brian's jaw tightened. But, I said, I'm also going to give you something else. Something more important than money. They looked at me. Confused. Waiting. I'm going to give you my time, I said. My attention. My love. Not conditional love. Not love that you have to earn. Just love. Real love. The kind I should have given you all along. Sarah's eyes went wide. Mark's mouth opened. Brian sat forward. I'm going to be a better father, I said. I'm going to be present. I'm going to listen. I'm going to be there for you. Not with money. Not with things. With myself. With my heart. With my time. If you'll let me. Sarah broke down. She stood up. She ran to my bed. She put her arms around me. She hugged me. Tight. So tight I could barely breathe. "I'm so sorry, Dad," she sobbed. "I'm so sorry. I love you. I've always loved you. I was just so stupid. So greedy. So blind." Brian stood up. He walked over. He put his hand on my shoulder. "I'm sorry too, Dad. I should have been better. I should have been a better son." Mark came last. He stood behind his brother. His face was red. His eyes were wet. "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry for all the stupid things I said. I'm sorry for all the stupid things I did. I was a jerk. A complete jerk." I looked at them. My 3 children. The ones I had raised. The ones I had failed. The ones who had failed me. But they were here. They were sorry. They wanted to change. And that was enough. "Okay," I said. "Okay. We're going to be okay. All of us. We're going to figure this out together." We stayed like that for a long time. Hugging. Crying. Healing. The machines hummed. The monitor beeped. The clock ticked. But for the first time in a long time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. After a while, Arthur stood up. "Mr. Henderson, I need to speak with you privately. It's important." I nodded. The children stepped back. Arthur walked over to my bed. He leaned down. His voice was low. "I need you to know something," he said. "The will is already filed. It's legal. It's binding. But there is a provision that might surprise you. A clause I added at your request. Remember?" I nodded. I remembered. "Tomorrow morning, I'll bring the paperwork," he said. "You can decide then. No pressure. No rush. Just think about it." He left. Maria left. The children sat back down. They looked at me, waiting. "What was that about?" Sarah asked. "Nothing," I said. "Just legal stuff. Nothing to worry about." But I knew it wasn't nothing. It was the final piece. The last test. The one that would determine whether any of this was real. Whether my children had truly changed. Or whether they were just saying what I wanted to hear. I lay there. The machines hummed. The monitor beeped. And I thought about tomorrow. About the choice I was going to give them. It was going to change everything. The night was the longest of my life. I didn't sleep. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, running through every possible scenario in my head. Tomorrow, I would give them a choice. A real choice. One that would test everything. Their greed. Their love. Their capacity to change. Arthur had prepared the papers. He had them ready. A codicil. An amendment to the will. It was simple. Clean. Legal. The clause said this. My children would each receive a one-time payment of $20,000. No more. No less. The rest would still go to the church, the food pantry, and the hospital staff. But there was a catch. A big one. That the money would only be released if each of them completed 6 months of community service. Real service. Not a few hours on a weekend. Weekly shifts. Consistent work. They would serve at the same food pantry where I volunteered. They would work alongside the homeless, the hungry, the desperate. They would see what real need looked like. They would taste the reality that I had been trying to show them for years. If they completed the service, they would get the money. If they refused, they would get nothing. Not a penny. Not a dime. Not a single cent. It was a test. A test of their character. A test of their willingness to earn something instead of just taking it. A test of whether they could see beyond themselves. That I didn't know if they would pass. But I had to give them the chance. Morning came. The sun crept through the blinds. The machines hummed. The monitor beeped. Maria came in with my breakfast. She looked at me. Her eyes were tired. "Did you sleep?" she asked. "No," I said. Not a wink. She nodded. "It's going to be a long day. Are you ready?" "I don't know," I said. "But I have to do it. Whatever happens." She squeezed my hand. She left. I waited. At 9 a.m., Arthur arrived. He had the papers. He set them on the bedside table. He sat in the corner. He didn't say anything. He just waited. At 9:15, the children arrived. All 3 of them. They looked nervous. Anxious. They had dressed nicely. Brian in a suit. Sarah in a blouse and skirt. Mark in a clean shirt and jeans. They sat in the same chairs. They looked at me. Waiting. "Thank you for coming," I said. "I asked you here because I have something important to discuss. Something that will determine the future of this family." They exchanged glances. Sarah bit her lip. Brian leaned forward. Mark sat up straighter. "I've been thinking a lot about what happened," I said. "About the will. About the things you said. About the things I said. And I've realized that the will isn't the end of the story. It's not the final chapter. There's more to write. If we want." Mark frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean that I'm willing to give you a chance," I said. "A chance to earn what you lost. A chance to prove that you've changed. A A chance to show me that the words you said yesterday weren't just words. That they were real. Sarah looked at Brian. Brian looked at Mark. None of them knew what to say. I've added a clause to the will, I said. A codicil. It gives each of you a $20,000 payment. That's it. $20,000 each. The rest still goes to the church, the food pantry, and the hospital staff. Sarah's mouth opened. She started to protest. But I held up my hand. Wait, I said. There's more. The money is conditional. It only gets released if you complete 6 months of community service at the food pantry. Weekly shifts. Real work. Serving meals. Sorting donations. Cleaning up. Working alongside the people who have nothing. You have to see what real need looks like. You have to feel it. You have to earn the money. Not just take it. Mark stood up. His chair scraped the floor. 6 months. You want us to work at a food pantry for 6 months for $20,000? That's ridiculous. That's less than minimum wage. It's not about the money, I said. It's about the lesson. I've given you money your whole lives. And look what it's done to you. It's made you entitled. It's made you selfish. It's made you forget what's really important. Now I'm giving you a chance to learn something different. Something better. Brian rubbed his face. Dad, I have a job. I have a family. I can't just take 6 months off to volunteer at a food pantry. I'm not asking you to take time off, I said. I'm asking you to give up a few hours a week. 1 shift. Maybe 2. You can fit it around your schedule. Millions of people do it. They do it because they care. They do it because they want to make a difference. Now I'm asking you to do the same. Sarah was quiet. She was thinking. I could see it on her face. She was weighing the options. Calculating. Like she always did. $20,000 isn't a lot of money, she said. Not compared to what we would have gotten. The house. The cabin. The stocks. That's hundreds of thousands. Millions, maybe. You're asking us to settle for peanuts. I'm not asking you to settle for anything, I said. I'm asking you to work for it. To earn it. To prove that you deserve it. If you can't do that, then you don't deserve anything at all. Mark crossed his arms. This is a trick. You're testing us. You want to see if we'll do it. And if we do, you'll probably change the will again. You'll find another condition. Another test. It'll never end. It ends when I say it ends, I said. But right now, this is the only condition. 6 months of service. $20,000 each. That's the deal. Take it or leave it. Mark stared at me. His face was red. He was angry. I could see it boiling underneath. But he didn't say anything. I'm going to need an answer, I said. Not today. Not right now. Take some time. Think about it. Talk to each other. Pray. Meditate. Whatever you need to do. But I need an answer by the end of the week. If you agree, you start next Monday. If you don't, the will stands as is. No money for any of you. Just the church. The food pantry. The hospital staff. Brian stood up. I need to talk to my wife about this. She's going to have opinions. Strong ones. I understand, I said. Take the time you need. But don't take too long. I'm not getting any younger. Sarah stood up. She looked at me. Her eyes were wet. Dad, I want to do it. I really do. But I'm scared. I'm scared I can't do it. I'm scared I'll fail. I'm scared that after all of this, I'll still be the same person I was before. You won't fail, I said. Because I'll be there. Not working alongside you. I'm too old for that. But I'll be there. Watching. Supporting. And if you stumble, I'll help you up. That's what families do. That's what they've always done. She nodded. She left. Brian followed. Mark was the last to go. He paused at the door. He looked back at me. Dad, I want you to know something. I'm not doing this for the money. I'm doing it because I want to make you proud. I've never made you proud. Not once. And that's all I've ever wanted. To make you proud. Just once. I felt a lump in my throat. I swallowed it down. Then do it, I said. Show me. Show me what you're made of. That's all I've ever wanted too. Mark nodded. He left. The door clicked shut. The room was quiet. Arthur stood up. He walked over to my bed. Are you sure about this? He asked. 6 months is a long time. They might not do it. They might walk away. And if they do, you'll never see them again. You'll lose them forever. I know, I said. But I have to try. I have to give them a chance to be better. Even if it's just a chance. If they walk away, then at least I'll know. At least I'll know I tried. Arthur nodded. You're a good man, Mr. Henderson. A better man than most. I'm just a father, I said. Trying to do right by his children. The week passed slowly. I was discharged from the hospital on Friday. Maria helped me pack my things. She handed me a small bag with my personal items. My watch. My wallet. A picture of Elizabeth. It was worn, faded, but I still carried it everywhere. You take care of yourself, Mr. Henderson, Maria said. And don't forget to come visit. Not as a patient, as a friend. I will, I said. And Maria, thank you. For everything. You saved my life. More than once. She smiled. That's what I do. Take care of people. It's my calling. I went home. The house was empty. Quiet. Too quiet. I walked through the rooms. The living room. The kitchen. The bedroom. Everything was exactly as I had left it. But it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a museum. A monument to the past. To all the memories I had made. And all the ones I had lost. I sat down in my favorite chair. The leather was cracked. The cushion was worn. It had been Elizabeth's chair too. We used to sit there together. She would read. I would watch television. We didn't always talk. But we were together. That was enough. I missed her. I missed her so much it hurt. I missed her voice. Her laugh. The way she smelled. The way she made everything feel okay. I wondered what she would think of me now. If she was watching. If she knew what I had done. Would she be proud, or would she be disappointed? I didn't know. I couldn't know. But I hoped. I hoped she was proud. I hoped she understood. The phone rang. I answered it. It was Arthur, Mr. Henderson. Your children have all responded. They've all agreed to the terms. They'll start on Monday. All 3 of them. They'll show up at the food pantry at 8 a.m. The director is expecting them. I felt a wave of relief. It washed over me. Strong. Overwhelming. Thank you, Arthur, I said. Thank you for everything. It's not over yet, Arthur said. They still have to do the work. 6 months is a long time. A lot can happen. I know, I said. But at least they agreed. That's a start. That's more than I expected. Take care, Mr. Henderson. I'll be in touch. I hung up the phone. I sat in my chair. I stared at the wall. And I thought about Monday. About the first day of the rest of their lives. About the first day of the rest of mine. The weekend passed in a blur. I cleaned the house. I went to church. I prayed. I thought about Elizabeth. I asked her for guidance. For strength. For the wisdom to do what was right. On Sunday night, I couldn't sleep. I was nervous. Anxious. Excited. I felt like I was about to send my children off to war. And in a way I was. A war against their own worst instincts. A war against greed. Against selfishness. Against entitlement. I got up early on Monday morning. I made coffee. I ate a small breakfast. I got dressed. I put on my favorite sweater. The one Elizabeth had bought me. I was going to the food pantry. I wasn't going to work. I was going to watch. To witness. To see what happened. I arrived at 7:45 a.m. The food pantry was a small building on the edge of town. It had been there for decades. It was run by a group of volunteers. Good people. People who cared. People who didn't ask for anything in return. The director was a woman named Ruth. She was in her 60s. Gray hair. Kind eyes. She had been running the pantry for 20 years. She knew everyone. She knew the regulars. She knew the staff. She knew the volunteers. And she knew exactly what she was doing. Mr. Henderson, she said. It's good to see you. I heard about your heart. Are you feeling better? Much better, I said. Thank you for asking. Your kids are here, she said. They arrived early. They're in the back, getting ready. They look nervous. They are nervous, I said. They've never done anything like this before. Ruth smiled. Don't worry. I'll take good care of them. I'll teach them what they need to know. And if they're willing to learn, I'll make sure they succeed. Thank you, I said. I owe you one. Ruth shook her head. You don't owe me anything. I'm just doing my job. It's what I do. It's who I am. I walked to the back of the building. Through the doors. Into the main room. The pantry was set up like a small grocery store. Shelves lined the walls. Canned goods. Boxed goods. Fresh produce in crates. A refrigerator for dairy and meat. A freezer for frozen items. Everything was organized. Everything was clean. And there were my children. Brian, Sarah, and Mark. They were wearing aprons. Name tags. They looked uncomfortable. Awkward. Out of place. Brian was sorting cans. He was putting them on the shelves. Slowly. Carefully. Like he was afraid of making a mistake. Sarah was at the front desk. She was checking people in. Taking names. Keeping track of who was coming. She looked overwhelmed. But she was trying. Mark was in the back. He was unloading a truck. Boxes of food. Heavy boxes. He was sweating. Straining. But he was working. I watched them for a while. They didn't know I was there. I stood in the corner. Quiet. Invisible. Just watching. Just waiting. The morning was busy. Lines of people. Families. Old people. people with disabilities, people who had nothing. They came in. They filled their bags. They said thank you. They left. My children worked hard. They didn't complain. They didn't stop. They just kept going. At lunchtime, the pantry closed. The last person left. The volunteers gathered in the back room. They ate sandwiches. They drank coffee. They talked. My children sat together. They didn't say much. They looked exhausted. But there was something else on their faces. Something I hadn't seen in a long time. Satisfaction. I walked over to them. They looked up. Surprised. Dad, Brian said. You're here. I am, I said. I wanted to see how you were doing. We're doing okay, Sarah said. It's harder than I thought, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. Mark nodded. The people, the families, they're so grateful. They say thank you for everything. They don't take anything for granted. It's different from what I expected. What did you expect? I asked. I don't know, Mark said. I thought they'd be angry, or bitter, or lazy, but they're not. They're just people. People who fell on hard times. People who need help, just like anyone else. I smiled. It was a small smile, but it was genuine. You're starting to understand, I said. That's why I wanted you to do this. Not for the money, for the lesson. Sarah looked at me. Is that what this is about? A lesson, part of it, I said. But not all of it. This is about you. About who you are. About who you want to be. I can't change you. I can't make you into good people. That's something you have to do for yourselves. This is just a chance to see the world differently, a chance to become something better. Brian nodded. He looked at his hands. They were dirty, calloused from lifting boxes. I never knew how hard it was, he said. All those years, I complained about my job, about my bosses, about my coworkers. I thought I had it rough. But these people, they have nothing, and they're still grateful. They still say thank you. They still smile. Hard times don't make you bitter, I said. They make you grateful. If you let them. Mark looked at his brother. I think I'm starting to get that. The first week was rough. My children came home exhausted every day, bruised, battered, but they kept going. Week 2 was better. They started to find their rhythm. They learned the routine. They got to know the other volunteers. They got to know the families. Week 3, something changed. I saw it in their eyes. It was subtle, hard to describe, but it was there. They were no longer going through the motions. They were actually caring, actually connecting, actually making a difference. I visited the pantry every day. I didn't work. I just watched. I talked to Ruth. I talked to the volunteers. I talked to the families. They told me stories. They told me about my children. They said they were changing. They said they were becoming better people. And I believed them. On the 4th week, something happened. A family came in. A mother and 3 kids. The mother was crying. She had just lost her job. She didn't know how she was going to feed her children. She was scared, desperate, broken. Sarah was at the front desk. She saw the woman crying. She didn't hesitate. She walked around the desk. She put her arm around the woman. She held her. She told her it was going to be okay. She promised her that she wouldn't go hungry. She told her that she wasn't alone. I watched from the corner. My eyes filled with tears. That was my daughter. The one who had stood over my bed and argued about my money. The one who had said just wait for him to die. And now she was holding a stranger, comforting her, helping her, like she had been doing it her whole life. I walked over to Sarah after the woman left. That was amazing, I said. What you did. It was beautiful. Sarah looked at me. Her eyes were red. I couldn't help it. She was so scared. She was so alone. She reminded me of someone. Who? I asked. Of myself, she said. When I was going through my divorce. I was so scared. So alone. But I had you. I had Mom. I had people who helped me. That woman has no one. She has nothing. And she's still trying. Still fighting. She's stronger than I ever was. I hugged her. I held her tight. I'm proud of you, I said. I'm so proud of you. She hugged me back. She cried. I cried too. At week 5. Week 6. The months rolled on. My children kept working. They didn't miss a shift. They didn't complain. They didn't give up. Brian started mentoring some of the younger volunteers. He taught them how to sort donations, how to keep inventory, how to handle the crowds. He was patient, kind. He was becoming a leader. Sarah became the unofficial counselor of the food pantry. She sat with the families. She listened to their stories. She offered advice, encouragement. She gave them hope. She reminded them that they weren't alone. Mark worked in the warehouse. He organized the supplies. He made sure everything was stocked. He built new shelves. He fixed broken equipment. He did whatever needed to be done. He didn't complain. He just did it. By the end of the 5th month, they were different people. I could see it. Everyone could see it. They were patient, compassionate, humble. They had learned what I had been trying to teach them all along. That life wasn't about what you had. It was about what you gave. That happiness wasn't found in money or possessions. It was found in connection, in community, in serving others. The day of reckoning came. The day the 6 months were up. My children had completed their service. They had earned their payment. $20,000 each. Arthur called me. Mr. Henderson, the children have completed the conditions. The money will be released tomorrow. Are you sure this is what you want? Yes, I said. I'm sure. They earned it. They deserve it. Arthur paused. Mr. Henderson, I need to remind you. The codicil you signed, the one that gave them the money, it wasn't just for $20,000. It was for something else. Something bigger. Do you remember? I smiled. I remember. Then you know what happens next. I know, I said. Tomorrow, at the pantry, we'll tell them everything. Arthur hung up. I sat in my chair. I stared at the wall. I thought about Elizabeth. I thought about my children. I thought about the journey they had taken. The journey we had all taken together. And I knew. I knew that tomorrow was going to change everything. That the morning of the final day arrived like a slow sunrise over a frozen lake. I had been awake for hours. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I made coffee. I sat in Elizabeth's chair. I stared out the window at the empty street. Today was the day. 6 months had passed. My children had done what I asked. They had shown up. They had worked. They had changed. I had seen it with my own eyes. But today was the real test. The final test. The one they didn't know was coming. Arthur had called yesterday. The paperwork was ready. The funds had been released. $20,000 each. But that was only part of it. The real surprise was still waiting. Buried in the fine print of the codicil. A clause I had asked Arthur to include. A clause that would change everything. I finished my coffee. I got dressed. I drove to the food pantry. The sun was climbing. The air was crisp. Fall had arrived. The leaves were turning. Red and gold. Beautiful. But I barely noticed. My mind was elsewhere. I arrived at 7:30 a.m. Ruth was already there. She was setting up for the day. She smiled when she saw me. Big day, she said. Big day, I agreed. Are they here inside? They've been here since 6. Mark wanted to reorganize the warehouse. Brian wanted to review the inventory. Sarah wanted to prepare the welcome packets. They've been working nonstop. I nodded. They've come a long way. Ruth looked at me. Her eyes were knowing. They have, and they're not the only ones. You've come a long way too, Mr. Henderson. I've seen it. The way you look at them now. The way you talk about them. It's different. Softer. Prouder. I am proud, I said. I never thought I would say that again. But I am. We walked inside. The pantry was quiet. The first clients wouldn't arrive for another hour. My children were in the back. Brian was at the shelves. He was counting cans. Mark was in the warehouse, stacking boxes. Sarah was at the front desk, organizing papers. They looked different. They looked older. Wiser. Their faces had lost the sharp edges of entitlement. Their eyes had lost the greed. They had been replaced by something else. Something I had never seen in them before. Humility. Compassion. Purpose. Dad, Sarah said. She looked up. You're early. I wanted to be here, I said. This is a special day. Mark walked out of the warehouse. He wiped his hands on his apron. 6 months, he said. Can you believe it? I can, I said. I've watched every single day. I've seen every single change. And I want to say something to all of you. They gathered around. Brian put down the can he was holding. Mark stepped closer. Sarah walked around the desk. I'm proud of you, I said. I'm proud of what you've done. I'm proud of who you've become. When I lay in that hospital bed, I thought I had lost you. I thought you were gone forever. I thought the greed had swallowed you whole. But I was wrong. You found your way back. You found your way home. Mark's eyes glistened. Brian looked at the floor. Sarah reached for my hand. We couldn't have done it without you, Dad, she said. You gave us a chance. You believed in us, even when we didn't believe in ourselves. That's what fathers do, I said. We believe, even when it's hard, even when it hurts. There was a pause. Then I pulled out a folded piece of paper from my pocket. It was the codicil, the amendment to the will, the one that held the final clause. I want to read you something, I said. From the codicil, the one that set up the $20,000 payment. I asked Arthur to add something you didn't know about, something I wanted to keep a secret until today. They looked at me, curious, confused. I unfolded the paper. I cleared my throat. I read aloud. Upon successful completion of the 6-month community service requirement, each beneficiary shall receive not only the aforementioned $20,000 payment, but also the following additional provision: 1/3 of the residual estate, the house, the cabin, the stocks, the retirement accounts, all of it, divided equally among the three. The room went silent. Brian's mouth fell open. Sarah's eyes went wide. Mark looked like he'd been hit in the chest. "Wait," Brian said. "What you're giving us the inheritance, all of it," I said. "The whole thing. It was always going to be yours. The codicil I signed in the hospital. The one that seemed to cut you out, it was a test. A test to see if you were willing to earn it. To see if you were willing to change. And you did. You passed. Every single one of you. But you said the money was going to the church. The food pantry. The hospital staff," Sarah said. Her voice was shaking. "You made it sound so final." "It was a test," I repeated. "A test to see if you would still love me when I had nothing left to give. A test to see if you would still be my children when I had no money. A test to see if you would fight for something more important than a paycheck." Mark shook his head. "I don't believe it. All this time, all those weeks of work, you were going to give us everything anyway. I was going to give you everything if you proved you deserved it. And you did. You proved it with every shift, every hour, every day. You showed me that you were capable of change. You showed me that you could see beyond yourselves. You showed me that you were still the children I raised, the children I loved." Sarah started to cry. Mark put his hand on her shoulder. Brian walked over to me. He put his arms around me. He held me tight. "Thank you, Dad," he whispered. "Thank you for not giving up on us." "You never gave up on me," I said. "You never stopped trying. You just needed a push in the right direction." Brian pulled back. He was crying too. Mark was crying. Sarah was crying. And I was crying. The four of us stood there, in the middle of the food pantry, surrounded by cans and boxes and shelves. And we cried together. Ruth was standing in the doorway. She had tears in her eyes too. She walked over. She put her hand on my shoulder. "Mr. Henderson, you're a good man. A better man than most." "Thank you, Ruth," I said. "For everything. For teaching them. For guiding them. For being the person they needed." She shook her head. "I didn't teach them anything. I just showed them the door. They walked through it on their own. The rest of the day was a blur. The clients came. My children served them. They smiled. They laughed. They made people feel welcome. They had become the people I always knew they could be." When the pantry closed, we gathered in the back room. Mark opened a bottle of soda. Brian passed out cups. Sarah made a toast. "To Dad," she said. "The man who taught us what really matters. The man who never stopped believing in us. The man who gave us the greatest gift of all, a chance." We raised our cups. We drank. We hugged. We talked. And for the first time in years, I felt whole. Complete. At peace. That night, I sat in my favorite chair. Elizabeth's chair. I looked at her picture. I talked to her. I told her everything. About the will. About the test. About the children. About the pantry. About the forgiveness. About the healing. "I hope you're proud of me," I whispered. "I hope I did the right thing." And in my heart, I felt her answer. I felt her warmth. Her love. Her approval. "I did," I said. "We did. Together." The weeks that followed were like a dream. Brian came over for Sunday dinners. He brought his wife and kids. The grandkids ran through the house. They played in the yard. They ate my cooking. They fell asleep on the couch. It was everything I had ever wanted. Sarah came by on Wednesdays. We watched old movies together. Westerns. Comedies. Romances. Elizabeth's favorites. We laughed. We cried. We talked about her. We remembered her. We kept her alive. Mark came on Saturdays. We worked on the house. We fixed the leaky faucet. We patched the drywall. We painted the fence. We didn't talk about money. We didn't talk about the will. We just talked. About life. About the future. About everything. They still worked at the food pantry. Not because they had to. Because they wanted to. They had found something they loved. Something that gave them purpose. Something that made them feel whole. I went back to church. I sat in the same pew. I sang the same hymns. I listened to the same sermons. But everything felt different. New. Renewed. Arthur called me one afternoon. "Mr. Henderson, I have the final paperwork ready. The will has been updated. Your children are the sole beneficiaries. The church and the food pantry have received their donations. Everything is in order. Thank you, Arthur. Thank you for everything you've done for this family." "It was an honor," he said. "An absolute honor." I hung up the phone. I sat down in my chair. I looked at Elizabeth's picture. It's done, I said. Everything is done. And it's all going to be okay. Months passed. The holidays came. Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. My house was full of noise, full of laughter, full of love. The grandkids tore open presents. The adults cooked and drank and talked. The phone rang with calls from friends. The doorbell rang with visitors. And through it all, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Joy. Real, deep, undeniable joy. But I didn't forget. I didn't forget what had happened. I didn't forget the hospital room. I didn't forget the voices. I didn't forget the words. I kept them with me. Not as a weapon. Not as a grudge. As a reminder. A reminder of how close we came to losing each other. A reminder of how fragile family can be. A reminder of how precious love truly is. And I used that reminder to be better. To be kinder. To be more present. To be the father they needed. Not just the father they wanted. Sarah got married in the spring. A small ceremony. In the backyard. Under the oak tree. I walked her down the aisle. I gave her away. I hugged her. I told her I loved her. And I meant it. Brian got a promotion at work. He called me the day it happened. He was so excited. So proud. Thanks for everything, Dad. I couldn't have done it without you. You could have, I said. You just didn't know it. But I always did. Mark found a new job. A good job. A real job. He stopped drinking. He started saving money. He started thinking about the future. He started talking about maybe finding someone. Settling down. Starting a family. I'm doing it, Dad, he said. I'm finally doing it. For real this time. I know you are, I said. I always knew you could. Summer came. The leaves were green. The days were long. My children visited less often. They had lives. They had families. They had commitments. I understood. I didn't mind. I had my own life. My own routines. My own friends. But we still talked. Every week. Every Sunday. The phone rang. The voices came. They weren't arguing. They were laughing. Talking. Sharing. Being a family. And I cherished every single moment. That one Sunday afternoon, I was sitting in my chair. The sun was warm. The window was open. A breeze drifted in. It smelled like fresh grass. Like summer. Like life. I closed my eyes. I smiled. I thought about everything. The pain. The anger. The healing. The love. The redemption. It all felt like a dream. A beautiful, impossible dream. But it wasn't a dream. It was real. It was my life. My family. My second chance. And I was grateful. So deeply, profoundly grateful. The phone rang. It was Sarah. She was calling to check in. She asked how I was feeling. She asked if I needed anything. She asked if I was happy. I thought about it. I thought about everything that had happened. The heart attack. The hospital. The words. The anger. The forgiveness. The change. The love. Yes, I said. I'm happy. I'm very happy. Good, she said. That's all I ever wanted, Dad. For you to be happy. I know, I said. I know. We hung up. I sat there for a while. I stared at the wall. I stared at Elizabeth's picture. You were right, I said. You always said it would get better. You always said they would come around. You always said they were good kids. And you were right. Elizabeth smiled at me from the photo. Or maybe it was just the light. I didn't know. I didn't care if the sun set. The sky turned orange. Red. Purple. Beautiful. I watched it through the window. I didn't move. I didn't want to. I just wanted to sit there. To soak it all in. To remember this moment. To hold on to it forever. Because I knew that moments like this were precious. They were fleeting. They were never guaranteed. And I had almost lost them. But I didn't. Because I opened my eyes. I spoke up. I heard every word. And I chose to fight. Not for the money. Not for the house. Not for the cabin. But for the one thing that mattered more than any of it. Family. And that, I realized, was the real inheritance. Not the stocks. Not the accounts. Not the property. But the love. The connection. The bond that had been broken and then repaired. The thing that money could never buy and could never replace. I thought about the words I had whispered in the hospital. I heard every single word you said. And I realized that those words had become my strength. They had become my power. They had become the thing that saved my family. Because hearing those words had made me see the truth. And seeing the truth had given me the courage to change it. That the evening came. The darkness fell. I got up. I walked into the kitchen. I poured myself a glass of water. I looked around the house. At the photos on the wall. The memories. The history. The love. And I said a prayer. A simple prayer. A thank you. For the second chance. For the healing. For the grace. And in that prayer, I promised myself something. I promised that I would never let my family drift apart again. I would fight for them. Every day, every week, every year. For as long as I had breath in my body. Because they were worth it. All of them. Every single one.